رب العالمين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. What chapter are we on right now?
We finished Mujahada.
We finished Mujahada. There's a new chapter. The chapter is encouragement for a person to increase their a'mal, their deeds, at the end of their life, right? So last week we went over a hadith and we're running out of time, so I cut it a bit short. The hadith of Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma. Remember Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma? Umar radiyallahu anh, he included him with the ashab of Badr. Those sahabi that were part of Badr, Umar radiyallahu anh used to give them a specific time where they could come and they could visit him, meet with him, and he used to allow Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhu to come with them. So they were a bit annoyed by this. They said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, we have children that are his age, why are you allowing him? So then what Umar radiyallahu anh did, initially he just answered them by saying that you know where he's from, you know which family he's from. So this also tells us that even when a person has a wisdom in what they're doing, sometimes to stem off conflict, or if you feel that it's not the right time to give your reasoning, person may be emotional or it's not the appropriate time, you could answer in a way that's true, but just with maslaha. Okay, you just want to stop the conversation. So Umar said, you know which family he's from, and he ended it. Afterwards, what happened was, another day Umar radiallahu anh told Ibn Abbas radiallahu anh, come here, right? And so when he came and the ashab of Badr were there, and Ibn Abbas, he said that I felt that Umar radiallahu anh called me that day to show why it is that he would allow me to come during their time. And so he asked them a question. What does إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحِ? What does it mean? What is this surah about? What is the tafsir? So some of the ashab of Badr, they said Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's victories will give us victory. Others were silent. Then Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, he said that this is a sign that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam will be leaving this world soon, right? And the reason that this hadith was included in this chapter is because of that. Meaning that when this surah was revealed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he told Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to فَسَبِّحْ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّكَ وَاسْتَغْفِرْ. Pray, do tasbih of Allah and do istighfar. Meaning at the end of your life, do more. But there's some other things that we could take from this hadith, other points. Number one is that knowledge in Islam and scholars, they're vital in Islam to promote its teachings. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He puts a premium on a person's knowledge and a person's amal regardless of their age. Yes, people who are elder, they should be respected, okay? They should be respected, but at the same time, a person who has more knowledge and acts upon that knowledge, they have a special status. So Ibn Abbas was younger, right? But he was able to sit with the ashab of Badr. And we also learn from that through knowledge, a person, they can surpass their peers. So you'll see sometimes a young imam, scholar, whatever, because of their knowledge, amal, everything, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them some status. Even in the famous hadith of Jibreel, when Jibreel alayhi salam came to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, what happened was, Jibreel alayhi salam came and sat in front of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam in this manner. He put his knees at the knees of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam and he sat in front of him like a student. And what's very interesting is that hadith of Jibreel, it came about 50 days before Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam passed away. Initially what happened, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in the Quran, عَلَّمَهُ شَدِيدُ الْقُوَى. Jibreel alayhi salam was teaching Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Jibreel alayhi salam was teaching. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam started as the student, Jibreel alayhi salam was the teacher. But then through Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam's mujahada, work, efforts, eventually it so happened that at the end of his life, the student surpassed the teacher. Now Jibreel alayhi salam is coming and sitting in front of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam as a student, asking him questions, right? And another thing that we learn from this hadith, and I'll just move on to the next hadith after that, is that the friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they're given glad tidings before their death. Sometimes a person who is connected to Allah, a friend of Allah, a wali of Allah, prior to their death, they start to get glad tidings. They may see dreams of them being in Jannah. They may see, some good things happen to them. Some life's work becomes complete. They might see a dream of them being in Jannah, or people who they looked up to, them coming in dreams and taking them to Jannah. Many basharat come for people, pious people, before they pass away. Now we come to the next hadith. الثالث عن عائشة رضي الله عنها قالت ما صلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم صلاة بعد أن نزلت عليه إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح إلا يقول فيها سبحانك ربنا وبحمدك اللهم اغفر لي متفق عليه. Aisha radiallahu anha, she said that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam did not pray any salah after إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحِ, Surah Nasr was revealed, إِلَّا يَقُولُ فِيهَا, except that in the surah, except in that salah, he would say, سُبْحَانَكَ رَبَّنَا وَبِحَمْدِكَ اللَّهُمَّ اغْفِرْ لِي. He would say this in his rukus and his sajdah, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. وفي رواية في الصحيحين عنها, and another hadith, كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يكثر أن يقول في ركوعه وسجوده سبحانك اللهم ربنا وبحمدك اللهم اغفر لي يتأول القرآن. In another narration, it says that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would abundantly say in his ruku' and his sajda, Subhanaka Allahumma wa Rabbana wa bihamdik. We express your purity, O Allah, our Rabb, our creator, nourisher, and sustainer. Wa bihamdik, and we praise you. Allahumma ghfir li, O Allah, forgive me. Yata'awwalul Quran, meaning it means he was acting upon what the Quran instructed him. That in Surah Nasr, فَسَبِّحْ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّكَ وَاسْتَغْفِرْ. Do tasbih of Allah and do istighfar. And it says, معنى يتأول القرآن أن يعمل ما أمر به في القرآن في قوله تعالى فسبح بحمد ربك. That's what I just said. وفي رواية لمسلم, in Muslim Sharif there's a hadith, كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يكثر أن يقول قبل أن يموت. Nabi صلى الله عليه وسلم would abundantly say prior to passing away, سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك. O Allah, I express your purity, wa bihamdik, and praise you, astaghfiruk, I seek forgiveness, wa atubu ilayk, and I turn to you in repentance. قالت عائشة قلت يا رسول الله. Aisha radiallahu anha said, Ya Rasulullah, ما هذه الكلمات التي أراك أحدثتها تقولها. She said, Ya Rasulullah, what are these words that I see, which I see you have begun to add to your prayer? Meaning you didn't say them in the past, right? Now you've begun to say them. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم جعلت لي علامة في أمتي إذا رأيتها قلتها. He said that جعلت لي علامة. He said it has been made a sign for me في أمتي, in my ummah, إذا رأيتها قلتها إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح. That when I see them to say إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح إلى آخر السورة, to the end of the surah. وفي رواية له كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يكثر من قول. Nabi صلى الله عليه وسلم would abundantly say سبحان الله وبحمده أستغفر الله وأتوب إليه. I've translated before. قالت قلت يا رسول الله أراك تكثر من قول سبحان الله وبحمده أستغفر الله وأتوب إليه. Aisha radiallahu anha said, I hear you say this a lot. فقال أخبرني ربي أني سأرى علامة في أمتي فإذا رأيتها أكثرت من قولي سبحانك اللهم وبحمدي أستغفر الله وأتوب إليه فقد رأيتها إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح فتح مكة ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفر إنه كان توابا. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Aisha radiallahu anha asked him again. He said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that I will see a sign in my ummah, and when I see this sign I should begin to say these things. And so Surah Nasr was revealed, and then Makkah was conquered, and that was the sign to me that I should begin saying this a lot. And as Ibn Abbas said, this is a sign that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam's life was nearing its close. So we can learn two things from this. Number one, how does it fit with the chapter? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam began to say these words abundantly when it became clear to him that his life was near an end. And so the chapter is increasing good deeds in the end of one's life. Remember our, Hazrat Maulana Yusuf Mutala Sahib rahmatullahi alayh, the last 3-4 years of his life, in every bayan, because he could also see signs he's passing away near his death, all of his bayans he would talk about this. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam used to increase istighfar. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam used to increase tasbih. When a person passes maybe 60 years old or so, we should start to say this in our ruku, in our sajda. No, we are young. Allah knows when our life will end, but there's no sign for most people that life is near its end. But once a person passes 60 years old, because after that Allah doesn't, as the first hadith in this chapter said, Allah doesn't make any excuse for that person, then in our ruku and sajda we should begin to read this. If not in our fard salahs, because in the fard salah it should be a bit short for the other people that are praying. In our nawafil, we should begin to read this. Because our Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he did this. The du'as that we read in ruku and sajda, they're sunnah, but they're not the only du'as that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam read. We're allowed to read other du'as as well. When a person feels that the time of death is coming near, signs are coming in your life, in your health, in the way that you're slowing down, you're not able to do what you used to do, we should begin to add this into our sajda. So what is it? Subhanaka Rabbana wa bihamdik Allahumma ghfirli. Okay? The fourth hadith, and this is the last hadith in the chapter, there's two actually. عن أنس رضي الله عنه قال إن الله عز وجل تابع الوحي على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قبل وفاته حتى توفي أكثر ما كان الوحي متفق عليه. Anas radiallahu anh, he said Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent revelation more frequently to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam as he neared his demise, so that when he passed away, revelation was at its highest frequency. So look, when Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam initially got the message, he got those ayahs of Iqra. And then after that, there was fatratul wahi, meaning that there was a space when no wahi came to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. There's difference of opinion amongst the muhaddithun about how long this took, how long this fatra was. Some say 6 months, some say 3 years. And then eventually, one day Rasulullah says, looked up at the sky and he saw Jibreel alayhi salam. And after that, the wahi began again with Surah Muddathir, Ya ayyuhal Muddathir. That's the second revelation, Surah Muddathir. So at that, and even after that, in Makkah, revelation wouldn't come every single day. It would come sporadically. That's why in the famous tafsir of Surah Al-Kahf, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he didn't receive revelation for 40 days in the middle, right? And another reason for this that is in Makkah, people's iman would be boosted up, built up, and it was speaking mostly about imaniyat, akhirah, and risala. So these things, as needed to give a dose of spirituality and connection to the people, they would be recited. Whereas in Medina, what happened was, now the ahkam began to come down, because people are firm in iman. And as if anybody ever takes a fiqh class, there's always things to learn, right? So the revelation would come frequently, almost daily, to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in Medina, because the rules were coming down. Okay? Now, how does this fit with the chapter? Reciting Quran is a good deed, right? And so when Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was ending his life, Allah was giving him more ayat, which he was giving to the ummah. So teaching is a good deed, giving Quran, receiving revelation, all of this is a good deed. This also increased at the end of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's life. The last chapter in this, last hadith in this chapter, Al-Khamis an Jabir radiyallahu anhu قال, Jabir radiyallahu anhu, he narrates, قال Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, يُبْعَثُ كُلُّ عَبْدٍ عَلَى مَا مَاتَ عَلَيْهِ رواه Muslim. Imam Muslim, he narrates that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, every servant will be raised upon what they died upon. Meaning the things that you died upon, the practices that you died upon, the a'mal that you were doing when you were dying. This could mean literally at the moment of your life, or this could mean the general practices you had at the end of your life. Allah will raise you up on those. So at the end of a person's life, a person should set things aside and do ibadah, so that they're raised on this. Now again, people have to see, people are of different personality types, right? Some people, if they sit in the masjid the whole day at the end of their life, this is ideal. But some people, what happens is they have that personality where they just cause problems, fitna, this and that. Some people, they need to stay busy, right? People like that stay busy, but even with that, increase your ibadah as well, right? Some people, they just can't sit still. That's fine. But at least, okay, do what you're doing and try to do it in a way that helps your akhirah as well. As opposed to making hundreds and thousands of dollars for some company that will never really appreciate you, right? That when there's layoffs for Ford, they're gonna lay you off, right? Not caring about how many years of service that you had. Or they'll give you, an offer for early retirement and say, if you don't take this, we can't guarantee you'll have your job. Why kill yourself for people like this? Fine, if you need to do it to keep your mind sharp, fine. But maybe try to dedicate your energies to some project that will facilitate the deen, right? That will get you good deeds. A person is not getting any good deeds for working another job if they don't have the right intention. Yes, if your intention is to provide my family a pious living, like a halal living, and that I'm trying to do da'wah to Muslims, fine. But most people, the job, what it does is it dominates the person's life such that it becomes part and parcel of their identity, right? And now why are you doing it? You're doing it for yourself, right? So a person should try at the end of their life to change their life such that the main focus that they have is nearing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, coming near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And others say that if a person, whenever they die, whatever thing that they die doing, they'll be raised on that. So Imam Muhammad bin Hassan al-Shaybani rahmatullahi alayhi, student of Imam Abu Hanifa, people asked him, how did you pass away? He said, I was thinking about a masala regarding a mukatab. Mukatab is a slave who makes a deal with their master saying that I'll pay you this much if you set me free, right? Set me free. I'll pay you this much, then set me free, okay? So then what happened was, Muhammad bin Hassan rahmatullahi alayhi, he said, I was thinking about this and next thing I knew I was dead. Right? But my ruh came out. So then they asked him, what happened to you? He said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told me that I didn't give you this knowledge to punish you. Meaning Allah pointed out faults in my deeds, but then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said to him, okay, I wouldn't have given you this knowledge if I wanted to punish you. And then they asked about Qadi Abu Yusuf. These were the whole life they spent together. Imam Abu Hanifa, Qadi Abu Yusuf, and Imam Muhammad bin Hassan al-Shaybani. He said, Imam Abu Yusuf was 2 levels above me. He said, what about Imam Abu Hanifa? He said, don't ask about Imam Abu Hanifa. He was with the A'la Illiyin, very, very high level, because of the khidmah they did for the ummah. So what does a person die on? This we should think. Anytime we're committing a sin, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes our life in this state, will we go in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like that? I'll end with this story. There was a tabi'i named Umair bin Ubaid, or Ubaid bin Umair, sorry. He was the mufti of Makkah in the time of Umar radiallahu anh. And he had such knowledge and ilm that Umar radiallahu anh respected him. That doesn't mean that he surpassed Umar radiallahu anh. But Umar radiallahu anh would come and meet him when he came to Makkah. He would make a point of meeting him. So again, knowledge necessitates some level of respect, right? And what they say, there's a famous poem that we learn in Alim course. It says, إِنَّمَا يَعْرِفُ ذَا الْفَضْلِ ذَوُوهُ. A person of virtue is only recognized by a person of virtue, right? So Umar radiallahu anh, he came to him and he met him, and so he had this status. So anyway, there was one woman, I think I've said this story before. There's one woman in Makkah, she was known for her beauty. She told her husband that, you're so lucky you have a woman like me. No man would be able to resist me. And I have a bum husband like you. He said, there's one man that will resist you. So who? He said, Ubaid bin Umayr. She said, let me try to seduce him. He said, go ahead. So she went to the haram. She went in front of the Kaaba. She saw him and said, I need to ask you a question. He said, okay, ask. She said, no, it's a very sensitive matter. So he went to the side to ask her. She took her niqab off. Immediately he looked, she was beautiful. So he looked away, he said, what are you doing? She said, I'm madly in love with you. I want to fulfill my desires with you. So he said, okay, I will. But let me ask you a few questions. You have to answer these questions. Okay. He said, if we were to engage in this act and Malakul Maut was standing right there, would you want to do it? He said, no. Okay, what if it was the day of judgment, we're standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, would you want to engage in this act? He said, no. He said, okay. He's like, now if you still want to, I am ready. Immediately she just ran away, and she went and she just sat on her musalla. And then her husband, the rest of his life, he would curse Ubaid bin Umair and said that my wife every night she was like a dulhan, like a bride, and now she's like, now all she does is she sits on the musalla. But it makes a person think, when we die, we'll be raised on that action as well. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us. This is a good muraqabah to do. If a person thinks that I'm going to commit a sin, think for a moment. Imagine if Malakul Maut was standing right there. Would I still want to do this or not? Imagine if I'm going to stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and I had an opportunity to do this sin. Will I not? right? I remember I was reading in one of Yusuf Mutala, his letters to one of his Khulafa, Mufti Shabir. In there, when he gave Khilafah, he wrote him a letter. In this letter, he said, be very, very, very careful of hidden sins. Because hidden sins, they destroy a person, even more than open sins. Because when a person engages in a hidden sin, they get some joy in it, that I was able to get away with it. Nobody knows what I'm doing. He said, be very careful about this. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us all. Wa akhiru da'wana.
Thank you.
Thank you.